Speaker, indeed, I do have one supplementary question, but before I ask that supplementary question, I just need some clarity on the answer that has been provided by the CS. Honorable CS, you have said that you are supplying a net payroll support of 145 million, knowing that the monthly wage bill for the institution is 272 million per month. Can you clarify to me whether this 145 that you say is for the period January 2025 to 30th June 2025 is a monthly support of 145, or the 145 is for those 3 months, which would be a drop in the ocean when you compare with the monthly wage bill? Secondly, there's a mention of conditional grants that you say will bridge the budget gap. Unfortunately, you have not provided any figures, CS. Do you have a figure of the total amount of the conditional grant that is going to be supported, the institution is going to be supported with? And lastly, last clarification, Honorable Speaker, there is language that is suspicious in the response on the recovery measures. I don't understand what you mean by staff right-sizing. This is the first time in my entire life that I have heard that word, staff right-sizing. Are you saying you're going to sack people? And if it is that is what you're saying, can it come from you clearly, which cadre of staff are affected and the numbers? And then, Speaker, I can ask my supplementary question then. Because those were just clarifications. This language is, that language is confusing. What is right-sizing? Are you cutting people down to size?
Proceed.
Now, Honorable Speaker, the supplementary question that I wanted to ask is whether this idea of transforming these middle-level colleges like Kenya Polytechnic into universities without sound financial and research grounding was ill-thought, and given the inability of these institutions to self-fund from internal resources. He has brought that question very clearly, Honorable Speaker, that these institutions are unable to self-sustain because of the sources of funding. Would you still, as a government, support this policy of transforming these mid-level colleges like Kenya Poly into universities? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For clarification, first clarification, Honorable Sifuna, the 145 million is monthly support. Monthly support to cover a gross payment of salary from January 2025 to June 2025. The conditional grant figures, we have them inbuilt in the 12.9 billion figure that we are supposed to pay, which we spread out from 2025-26 year to 2030-31. There is a schedule of how much per year we are giving so that that figure can be met. The idea was, take the 12.9 billion, spread it out because the government cannot afford to pay all of it at once. Spread it out because, for example, if you take the 4.3 billion that is the amount for pension, we know it is not required all at once. So we spread that figure out so that at least when people retire, they do not go home without any money. So we put in some money current so that when you retire, you are getting money, and we keep increasing that figure so that by the end of 2031, we'll have cleared the debt and will be in a position of sustainability. On right sizing, Mr. Speaker, this is rationalization of the staff. What I will explain further, Honorable Senator. What we found is that in universities, the ratio of teaching staff to non-teaching staff is supposed to be 70-30. But what we have in most of our institutions is the opposite. We have academic staff that are 30-70. So right sizing or rationalization is as you continue employing, you see where do you need to employ and where do you need to release. For example, if a casual or somebody is on contract and you find is in the 70% portion, you do not replace that person. You let them go at the end of their contract so that you have an opportunity to bring this other side above in order to right size. There is going, of course, to be issues relating to sending people home, but that is dependent on a program that would work if that becomes necessary, just like what we've done in Moi. What we did in Moi, we agreed that the first thing that will happen is the people whose contracts are coming to an end and are not required to be renewed because they're in the category of where you have more than you need, you don't renew their contract. But then, when you move to want to deal with the rest of the group, let's say you want to send them home, you have to work using the normal, because it's a labor right, using the normal process. Discuss with them, discuss with the unions, and you must have funds if you are sending people home to pay them so that they go home. So these are the strategies or structures that we put in place. One, to ensure that we have sustainable programs in the universities, but we also do not offend the rights of the employees. So we are not just going to sack people and tell them, go home. We are going to work with them and with the unions to ensure that we have a program, a transition program, where we are going to be able to ensure that we are reaching the right level. That is the right sizing, rationalization that we are talking about. But we are going to work together with them. We are not going to wake up and say, this group go home. There could even those who are willing to voluntarily come and say, I want to go home, can I have my redundancy package and stuff like that. Now, the issue of transforming this mid-level colleges into universities, of course, came about because there was a number of students, as you very well know. The university spaces, if you remember, was that if people do exams and they're supposed to go to universities, what used to happen is you start from the position of how many spaces do we have in the universities for us to admit. Then you do a cutoff point and say, this year we are taking students from B and above. So you find that even the people who are actually qualified to go to universities were not getting the spaces. That is the basis upon which the transformation of these middle colleges to universities came about. But where we are now, the conversation needs to be had to confirm whether we have enough. For instance, this year, the spaces we have in universities to accommodate students, the available spaces are 305,000. The people who qualified on the C+ to go to universities are 246,000. That means we have almost 60,000 available space to admit other students. So the question would be, do we really need to do or create more universities? Because we are not getting enough students to admit. So it's a conversation that we'll have, and at each and every discussion, this is the rationalization, the discussion, the assessment that needs to be done, including the financial implications of it, to see whether it is possible to upgrade. But otherwise, currently we have almost 79 universities in the country, for 3 of them being public, the rest being private. So we have enough spaces to admit all our students. So it's a conversation, as I said, that would need to be had depending on the need. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Senator Professor Kamal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and thank you, Minister, for the answers. I'm just wondering about the universities in relation to the TVETs, and you answered the question earlier about the TVETs. How much space do we have in the TVET and mid-level colleges to absorb our students? I'm asking that because you have rightfully said the percentage to the university is about 20% of those who did KCSE. You have also said that those figures are at least well accommodated as far as admission is concerned, because we have even extra room. How many do we have in the middle level? This percentage that qualifies to go to college, what capacity do we have for them? That's for the mid-level, before we even talk of VCTs. I know since you are a minister of both basic and higher education, we also have students who were offloaded in class 8, who couldn't go to secondary school because the spaces in secondary school were less than the spaces, the output that came out of primary schools. What plans does the ministry have to make sure that we don't offload our children actually to the streets? Because they are either somewhere or they are nowhere, and we will find them out there in the streets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, just note down the question. Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, CS, for coming to answer these questions. Honorable Speaker, my supplementary question is on question number 58C, that the Senator of Nairobi had sought to understand the government strategy on generally addressing the issues and the challenges currently affecting public universities, particularly by perennial strikes by academic staff. My question to the CS is, Bona CS, is there a specific remedy or a variety of remedies that you have put in place to deal with the disadvantage that students get with these strikes, and particularly where sometimes they're not concerned? A particular case in example is the rampant cases of late or delayed schooling. For instance, when there is a delayed element of or changes in calendars, where you find that a student is supposed to even graduate in a year's time, there is delayed calendars to the extent that they end up graduating in 2 years or 3 years. This is becoming a very serious issue in public universities, Honorable Speaker, that I think that it's an issue that needs to be dealt with for once and for all. So is there specific remedies that the ministry is putting in place to make sure that those disadvantaged students are also catered for in the middle of these perennial strikes? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mariam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, my question is